Donald Trump was recently on ABC's This Week, and he went after Chief Justice Roberts for the way he voted for the Affordable Care Act when, of course, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court voted that the federal mandate was indeed constitutional. Now let's listen to what Donald Trump had to say about Chief Justice Roberts and who else he attacks during his answer.
You know, a judge who is a totally underrated and not spoken is Justice Thomas. I mean, if you look at some of the judges that we have, like on the Supreme Court, Justice Roberts turned out to be a nightmare for conservatives. Ted Cruz was the one that really wanted Justice Roberts to go on the Supreme Court. You know that, right? Have you heard that?
I heard he worked with Roberts in the 2000s.
He was pushing him hard. Justice Roberts gave us Obamacare. Obamacare would have been terminated twice if it weren't for Justice Roberts. First time 100%, second time 90% that would have died of its own weight. But Justice Roberts could have killed Obamacare and should have, based on everything, should have killed it twice. Ted Cruz is the one that was promoting him. Ted Cruz and also Jeb Bush. But Justice Roberts was the man that gave us, and remember it, he gave us Obamacare almost as much as Obama himself.
So during the initial vote in the Supreme Court regarding the Affordable Care Act, Justice Roberts voted against it and then later changed his vote. So that was a big controversy among conservatives. And remember, Chief Justice Roberts was appointed by George W. Bush, and everyone expected him to be the conservative justice that would throw the Affordable Care Act out. But it didn't work out that way. But understand that that attack wasn't about the Supreme Court. That attack was about Ted Cruz.
It's about Ted Cruz.
Right?
Yeah, he was so mad about it. He was orange in the face. So I did some reading into John Roberts because it seemed to me like this is a stupid thing to say. Like, yeah, okay, he sided with the liberals on the court in that particular case to not totally destroy an established system of medicine across the entire country. But I don't think that means he's a liberal. And that vote, he had been, when did he get brought in? 2004, 2005? That was the second time that he had voted with the four liberals to make a 5-4 vote. 2 times after years and years and years of decisions, and he's a disaster as a result. He's also the person, by the way, who gave us Citizens United and created the mess of a financial campaign finance system that we have today.
Yeah.
And so, look, has he voted every time how a crazed conservative would want? No. That shows that he at least has something like a heart or a brain inside of him. But he is very much a conservative justice.
But when he voted for the ACA, it allowed Mexicans to rape women, white women, and Muslims also to be raping and killing and the things.
I was surprised that that amendment made it through the Senate.
Me too. Yeah. But that is what it's all about.
It's a weird one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, we shouldn't be in favor of activist judges, regardless of what your political ideology is, right? I want judges to take a look at our Constitution, take a look at our laws, and make rulings based on that. I don't want, liberal judges making decisions based on their liberal stances or their political ideology, and I don't want the same for conservatives either.
Yeah.
I think that I hate the federal mandate. I hate it. I hate it. I hate the fact that we're forced to buy from private insurers, okay? But the way that they ruled on that, in my opinion, made sense, okay? I wish we had another option, but the Supreme Court ruling made sense. Republicans are angry that they didn't repeal Obamacare. Sorry, at least we have some change when it comes to health insurance in the country. At least they're not able to deny you access to health insurance if you have a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
You're allowed to stay on your parents' insurance until the age of 26. There's some good things that came out of it, although I hate the federal mandate.
Well, I mean, I would say, I don't like the idea of it necessarily, but I think that we more don't like the idea of it because you're being forced to buy from private
That's
insurance.
exactly right.
I mean, if we had single payer and somehow you could opt out of that to not have the tax or something, I mean, there's a downside to not everybody being in the system. And we talk very often about there not being cost controls. That's one of the very limited cost controls we have, is that people aren't going to emergency rooms and being charged far more that then goes to the taxpayer because they can't actually pay for it. It sucks.
Yeah.
But it does have good outcomes to some extent.
To some extent. But if that's the only cost control that you have in place, forcing Americans to buy from private insurance, then insurance companies are going to continue what they've been doing over the last few years. They're going to keep raising the premiums,
Right.
which they've been doing, okay?
Yeah.
They cover less and less of the things that you need, which I've experienced firsthand. And so, yes, the Affordable Care Act did achieve some good things, but there's still a major problem there when it comes to cost control, even when you force people to buy into private insurance.
I think the next step will be, I think if Bernie gets to be president, it will be public option. And so when you can't force someone to buy from a private company, but you can force them to have a government, which will be better because they won't deny you coverage and they won't charge you co-pays and up the ass, which is what private insurance companies do. I dread having to go to the doctor and get because you just never know what they're going to charge.
Some arbitrary amount.
I literally went in, my ankle was hurting, right? So I went into my foot doctor over at Cedars, and
He gets paid every time he mentions that name.
mentioned Cedars, and they have a great foot and ankle clinic over there. Anyway, so I get the foot inserts, right?
Yeah.
So they make a mold of your foot. So I needed new ones. I hadn't had them in like 6 years, new ones made. So I'm getting new ones made, and hopefully this will help. They don't pay for it.
Yeah.
They send me a thing. Hey, where did this injury happen? Who should we go after to get this money? It's not an injury.
Yeah.
My ankle hurt.
No,
I
just-
need a new thing. Did it happen at work? No, it didn't happen. Did you get injured at home? It's not an injury.
Just take a map and start drawing lines all over it. It's every fucking step I've taken over the past
Yes.
6 years has steadily destroyed my ankle.
Yes.
Because that's how the human body works. It sucks.
And they'd rather pay someone to fill out a paper and put it in an envelope and send it to my house and have a mailman bring it to ask me how I was injured. And I got to write it back and send it. All this bullshit with just pay for it. I'm sick. I have a problem. Pay for it. We could cut out all that bullshit.
And pay for it because I've been paying you every month
Yes.
and doing everything that I'm supposed to do, and you're still not giving
Yeah.
the coverage I need. It's
and
maddening.
by the way, him having a bad ankle, and if it doesn't get fixed, him potentially either losing work or being slower on the job or whatever, maybe in his job, like pacing the stage. I don't know if it matters, but I'm saying, like, those sorts of things, you might say, well, we can't fix every problem. But those sorts of things can cause lower productivity. They can hurt the output of a business. Like, it matters that we fix these things and that we don't allow it to get worse over the course of years until his foot falls off or something, and that's 10 times the cost to fix it.
And that's not a scandal. Like, it's not the headline in the New York Times every day. Americans still paying twice as much for shittier health care than the rest of the world. That should be the headline in the New York Times every day. Americans still paying twice as much for shittier outcomes in health care. Have a good day.